Hi everyone, it's Matt here with another video. Today we're going to talk a bit more about counterpicking and what you need to keep in mind when counterpicking. Let's start off by saying what counterpicking is and why I should always pay attention when picking your champion. Counterpicking means that you take a champion that has a natural advantage over his opponent. For example, LeBlanc has a natural advantage over Ahri because she has a silence to stop her from casting spells, a snare that can stop her from escaping with her ultimate, and a dash ability that can dodge Ahri's charm ability. Counterpicking can also be divided into two kinds of counterpicking. The first part is hard countering. These kind of counters make the enemy laner almost useless. A hard counter has all of the advantages over the enemy he's facing. An example of this is Lee Sin versus Akali. Lee Sin has so many advantages over Akali that it's going to be very hard for Akali to win. The second part is the regular and soft counters. I put these in one category because they are kind of the same, but the one is just a bit harder to win against than the other. These kind of counters just need some knowledge of both champions to win. An example is Sivir versus Jinx in the bot lane. Sivir is a counter of Jinx because she can use her spell shield to either block her snares or her zap ability, but you can win this lane as Jinx by playing smart and maybe bait out her spell shield. Now that we know what kind of counters there are in the game, let's go over what to do to counter your opponents. You should always know what champions your main champions counter or what champions they get countered by. But if you find yourself in a situation where your main champions don't counter the enemy laner, then you should always try to pick your main champion that counters him or her the most. Try to keep some things in mind when you are looking for the best way to counter your opponent. You should always know what your opponent can do to harm you the most. For example, you should know that Blitzcrank can pull you towards him. After you have identified the way that your opponent can harm you the most, you should try to counter this as hard as possible. An example of countering Blitzcrank is by playing a champion with a dash or flash ability like Graves, Vayne or Ezreal, or champions that can just stay at a safe distance like Caitlyn. You don't need to counter your opponent in every way possible, like the LeBlanc versus Ahri. Just try to counter the things that form the biggest threat to you. For example, you need to counter Leona as a support. Leona has a lot of CC abilities and a skill shot engage. This means that you need a champion that can either lock down the enemy AD carry as long as possible, or you need a champion that has a really strong disengage. Good champions in this situation are Janna and Alistar. Janna has a really good disengage with her ultimate and Howling Gale, and Alistar can keep the enemy AD carry at a distance so the friendly AD carry doesn't get as much damage as he would normally. Both of them are also able to cancel her engage ability in mid-flight. Keep these things in mind when you counterpick and you'll be fine. Counterpicking is really important in ranked games, so pay close attention when you need to pick a champion. Playing against a hard counter in lane is not fun, believe me. It's something you want to avoid at all time. This is it guys, I hope you all enjoyed. Like, share, subscribe and don't forget to leave your questions and suggestions in the comment box below, and I'll see you guys later.